Let's move on to NVIDIA. So first of all, put in the chat if you watched the keynote last night on NVIDIA. I was up last night with Jose. We were up till basically 12 o'clock watching it. And I was pretty impressed, okay? I don't think there was anything that crazy that was announced, but I was impressed in general. And the reason I was impressed, let me just start off with why I was impressed. It's not like, first of all, I'm not an expert on NVIDIA, so I don't understand every little nuance of what he's talking about. And I don't know if I have ADHD, but if you guys could see me, I was on my phone a lot. Like, it was kind of hard to pay attention because at some parts it was boring. But the parts that he was talking about that mattered to me, like self-driving and robotics, I was tuned in. And it's just, it is very hard to imagine the bare thesis on NVIDIA, which is that it's incredibly cyclical and it's all going to fall apart when people stop spending money. Because everything they showed off looked like, at minimum, a 5-year trajectory, if not a decade-long trajectory in terms of growth from the CapEx side and from the software side that was going to result in more NVIDIA GPUs being sold, more NVIDIA software being sold from their subscription service, and more NVIDIA innovation expanding different industries that, quite frankly, need a leader like NVIDIA to allow them to expand. So I think that's why the stock is up 3% right now. I think the market is just like, dude, we can't deny this growth is real. And everyone who says it's cyclical, yeah, there might be some cyclicality to it, to the point where they're not growing at 300, 400%. But even if NVIDIA was compounding at 70%, 60%, 50%, the market couldn't be upset at it. And I think that's the thing that was really exciting in terms of what at least I got from that keynote. So what were some of the actual things that we heard about? Well, here's some quotes. Number one, Jensen said the autonomous vehicle revolution has arrived. I think that's super bullish Tesla, but Jensen has his own spin on how they're going to be helping OEMs. Number two, he said Blackwell's in full production. So that's another reason the stock is probably up 2%, because the street's probably not afraid of the supply chain bottlenecks that are existing with Blackwell that did exist after the design change, which caused a delay in Q3 of 2024. So that's bullish. And then number three, he said, I think in the next couple of years, humanity will produce more data than all of humanity has ever produced since the beginning. If you believe in the next couple of years that all that data is valuable and that it can be used for AGI, superintelligence, robotics, FSD, yada, yada, then there has to be an infrastructure, there has to be hardware, there has to be software, there has to be a foundational element to make sense of all of that data in a variety of verticals. And that's where NVIDIA says they have a massive, massive market opportunity. Here's a couple of videos. So here's the first one where Jensen says that he thinks self-driving will be the first multi-trillion-dollar industry in robotics.
Autonomous, 100 million cars built each year, a billion vehicles on the road all over the world, 1 trillion miles that are driven around the world each year. That's all going to be either highly autonomous or, fully autonomous coming up. And so this is going to be a very large industry. I predict that this will likely be the first multi-trillion-dollar robotics industry.
So that's him talking about self-driving as the first multi-trillion-dollar industry. Then he talked about a partnership they had with Toyota to actually help make their next generation autonomous vehicles become real.
And I'm super, super pleased to announce that today, Toyota and NVIDIA are going to partner together to create their next generation AVs. And
So, I mean, that also was great for Toyota stock. Let's check right now in the pre-markets where Toyota's at. I think it was up 4% last night. It's up 2.4% right now. So Toyota, legacy auto manufacturer, along with a lot of them, one of the focuses on the event was that legacy auto manufacturers are going to be able to use NVIDIA's data moat along with NVIDIA's sensors that are in the cars to then be able to come up with how to interpret real life objects. Now, a lot of people felt, okay, well, this is bearish Tesla because wait a second, if NVIDIA is working with all these OEMs, wasn't Tesla supposed to be the one that's like licensing FSD, yada, yada? I think there's a good response to this. And this response comes from Sawyer Merritt last night. And Elon kind of confirmed this as well. So this is what Sawyer said. And Elon quote tweeted this post and said that this opinion was correct. He said, opinion, this seems like it's aimed at legacy automakers that have virtually zero real-world self-driving data collection. They are years behind Tesla and have no real shot of catching up. So in theory, this synthetic data approach solves their lack of real-world data, right? Not exactly. Real-world video driving data is far superior. Tesla has 7.1 million vehicles on the road worldwide, collectively driving upwards of 75 billion miles annually. I just objectively, that can't be denied. Whatever NVIDIA is offering to these legacy OEMs, Tesla has 10x that, and they've had that because they've been collecting this data for the past 10 years. Each vehicle is equipped with multiple cameras, adding up to a total of more than 56 million cameras that Tesla is capable of actively capturing real-world video driving data from. Billions of miles are now driven on FSD every year and growing. Synthetic driving is kind of like using ChatGPT. You might trust what you see is true, but you often can't entirely be certain without further validation. In contrast, real-world driving data is reliable and represents true, legitimate scenarios as they occurred. It's the superior method for solving self-driving as long as you have enough collection of video data. And what he's referencing here is NVIDIA's Cosmos system, which is using cars to generate synthetic real-world driving scenarios to train self-driving cars. We'll watch this video in a second, but again, from my perspective, it does look like Tesla has a massive data advantage here, and what NVIDIA is trying to do is help the legacy OEMs that have no data or that have significantly less data than someone like Tesla, like a Toyota or a GM. And from that perspective, that is where Tesla still has value, even though all cars eventually will be autonomous over the next 20, 30 years. And that's where NVIDIA thinks there's a market opportunity for them as well.
We use the car to reconstruct digital twins automatically using AI and use that capability to train future AI models. Okay, let's play it. The autonomous vehicle revolution is here. Building autonomous vehicles, like all robots, requires 3 computers: NVIDIA DGX to train AI models, Omniverse to test drive and generate synthetic data, and Drive AGX, a supercomputer in the car. Building safe autonomous vehicles means addressing edge scenarios, but real-world data is limited, so synthetic data is essential for training. The Autonomous Vehicle Data Factory, powered by NVIDIA Omniverse.
So we'll stop it there. It goes deeper into like how they're doing this. But notice what Jensen said. Real-world data is limited, therefore synthetic data is required. For Tesla, it's not limited, right? For Tesla, they have more real-world data than you could ever ask for because they have all these cars on the road collecting that data. So I don't think this is necessarily bearish Tesla by any sense of the imagination, but rather it's bullish autonomous vehicles, autonomous driving, autonomy as a concept. And that to me is bullish Tesla. Now, Tesla is a little bit down in the pre-markets right here, down 1.8%. Let's see if it can hold 400. I did make a play on Tesla yesterday. I sold a 375 put after earnings. So expiring 131. If it goes to 375, I'll get 100 shares. My cost basis will be 360 with the premium that I got, about a 4% return. I'm happy to buy those shares at 360, not a big deal. But I do think that it potentially might struggle to hold 400 just given the volatility that it's had. But then again, every time you think that, it just bounces right back up over 400 because in the 370 to 390 range, people get like, why are we worried about deliveries, right? Why are we worried about margins? Why are we not seeing the bigger picture? And Tesla got multiple upgrades over the past week, including one today that we'll talk about, that further is preaching this vision that it's not about the numbers on earnings. It's not about margins. It's about a long-term story around autonomy. Jensen Huang basically confirmed that today. Jensen Huang confirmed last night in the keynote that if autonomy is the next multi-trillion-dollar industry, the first multi-trillion-dollar industry of real-world AI via robotics, because these cars are essentially robots that are on the road, then the winner of that, I don't think it's even deniable, is Tesla. And in the short term, whatever happens to Tesla is whatever happens. But if Jensen's the one saying, hey, this is the industry that we need to keep an eye on, this is the industry that's growing, this is the industry that we are investing tons of money on to be able to help legacy manufacturers like Toyota to succeed in, then obviously if that industry is compounding in and of itself and Tesla's the winner in that compounding race, then I would imagine they would get a ton of benefit from that. So that's the autonomy version of what we saw from Jensen's keynote. On top of that, we got a new supercomputer from Jensen yesterday called Project Digits. And here's Jensen announcing this right here from last night.
Everybody who uses computers today as a tool will need an AI supercomputer. And so I just wish that DGX1 was smaller. And, imagine, ladies and gentlemen, this is NVIDIA's latest AI supercomputer. And it's finally called Project Digits right now. And if you have a good name for it, reach out to us. Here's the amazing thing. This is an AI supercomputer. It runs the entire NVIDIA AI stack. All of NVIDIA software runs on this. DGX Cloud runs on this. This sits, well, somewhere, and it's wireless or connected to your computer. It's even a workstation if you like it to be, and you could access it. You could reach it like a cloud supercomputer, and NVIDIA's AI works on it. And it's based on a super secret chip that we've been working on called GB110, the smallest Grace Blackwell.
Pretty cool stuff. Pretty freaking cool stuff. Here's one final video, and then we'll move on from NVIDIA, but we'll talk about this. So again, that was Jensen introducing one of the smallest AI supercomputers that's out there. Again, the level of innovation is just incredible. Then Jensen talked about agents, and here's what he said about agents yesterday.
The IT department of every company is going to be the HR department of AI agents in the future. Today, they manage and maintain a bunch of software from the IT industry. In the future, they'll maintain, nurture, onboard, and improve a whole bunch of digital agents and provision them to the companies to use. Okay, and so your IT department is going to become kind of like AI agent HR.
So he was making that point to say that AI agents 2025 is going to have a really important year in terms of how they develop. So he introduced a bunch of new little supercomputers, which were big, and some of them, the price points are just absolutely incredible in terms of what they cost and the value you can get. He said Blackwell's in full production, so investors that care about Blackwell demand and making sure the supply chain has no bottlenecks, that's good for investors. I think that's really why the stock's up 2% right now. He said self-driving is going to be the next big industry in regards to the next multi-trillion-dollar industry. And he talked about robotics, and he didn't really say anything that new about robotics, just that NVIDIA's research is working very hard to be able to create foundation models that help the physical embodiment of the real world make sense inside of an actual robot. And they had a bunch of different robots on the stage. However, he didn't really call that the next multi-trillion-dollar industry. I'm sure he believes it'll be the next multi-trillion-dollar industry, but he said self-driving is the next multi-trillion-dollar industry, essentially saying that this is here, this is happening right now. You got Waymo, you got Tesla, you got a lot of people working on this, and all that data is being collected. It needs to be trained via these GPUs and then manifested in the real world through something like FSD. In terms of robotics, he says it's just around the corner, but that I would imagine he's thinking it's probably another year away before it becomes mainstream, and hopefully in 2025 we get some big updates from Optimus in terms of what it's doing. And then finally, he talked about agents. So we've been hearing about agents a lot. I know a lot of people are probably sick of hearing about this concept of an AI agent, but essentially the way I understand it is an AI agent is I guess you can call it assistant, even though it's not literally an assistant for a variety of tasks, but it is I guess the best word for it is agent that can autonomously do things on your own. So if you're in a hospital and you're a nurse and you need to schedule a bunch of different patients and go through Excel and manage different drugs or inputting and outputting into your system to be able to apply to different patients, an agent should be able to do that just by you prompting it to do that. If you are busy and you have meetings and need to reschedule your meetings, your personal assistant agent should be able to do that. The level of productivity that should essentially open, which in terms of stock market terms is margin expansion, that should be massive. And so far, we haven't really seen agents in the real world become that exceptional. I know, Salesforce is talking about it, Microsoft's talking about it with a Copilot, but Jensen put his foot in the ground yesterday, and he said this is happening in 2025. NVIDIA right here, 153.24 in the pre-markets. And if this is happening in 2025 and agents are becoming a real thing, and we can't ignore them anymore, then the applications, the software applications that can materialize and capitalize on those agents likely will expand margins, and the expansion of margins should lead to expanded multiples as well. So that's what you got from Jensen last night. Ultimately, I mean, you can put in the chat if you guys thought it was bullish or bearish. I thought the entire keynote was bullish. I mean, Jensen was wearing basically an alligator jacket or something from what it looked like. He even made fun of his jacket and being like, it kind of looked like the Michael Jackson Billie Jean jacket. That's the vibes I got from it. It was a little boring here and there because, it tends to get a little boring in certain areas. And with the chat, even some of you guys were bored during the stream. But on the parts that mattered, on the parts where he was really talking about the statistical significance of how things are expanding exponentially, that stuff cannot be denied. Like it just can't. And for anyone who's in NVIDIA or thinking of getting an NVIDIA position, you're going to have to figure out what valuation do you like for this thing. But their growth trajectory does not look like it's slowing down. And I think that 2025 is also going to be a debate between the bears and the bulls of, is it cyclical, is it not? Dan Niles came on CNBC yesterday and he said cash is his favorite position because he thinks AI spend is going to stop or significantly decrease by mid-year 2025. Based on what we heard from Jensen, it doesn't look like that's happening. It just doesn't. And so if it doesn't look like that's happening, it looks like NVIDIA will continue to get some more momentum. You think it's a YSL jacket? It might be. It might be a YSL jacket as well. Amid using AI agent to switch over to the Palantir bullish thesis. Well, no, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, is this bearish for Palantir because, Jensen is talking about all these software applications of NVIDIA. I don't think it's bearish for Palantir. I don't think it's bearish for Tesla. I don't think it's bearish for any AI names in the market. I think Jensen is expanding the industry in every sector. If there's more AI agents in software, Palantir will have more people reaching out to them. If there's more self-driving, more people will be interested in, hey, should I get a Toyota that can self-drive via NVIDIA synthetic data, or should I get a Tesla? That's bullish for Tesla. And that's also bullish for Toyota. So I didn't see anything that was necessarily, and even the AMD stuff, I know they launched like a pseudo AMD AI CPU competitor, but that just seems more bullish long-term for that overall market to increase, and AMD, which already has massive market share in that market, to continue to expand as well. Everything I saw was more so 2025 technology revolution not slowing down versus you have to, be scared of certain stocks getting hit by what NVIDIA is doing, because NVIDIA wants everyone to win, because the more everyone wins, the more they win. The more people are using Palantir's AIP, the more LLMs are being used, the more NVIDIA GPUs are being trained, bullish for NVIDIA. The more people are using Tesla or X or Grok, the more GPUs that NVIDIA gets to sell, the more bullish for NVIDIA, the more Optimus, the more chips NVIDIA can sell. Like, there's so many different ways that NVIDIA wins, no matter who wins. And I think that's what at least I got from the conversation at CES last night.